Okay. Welcome to reason number 2 of why I choose and chose to live in a van. There's actually a lot of reasons. You know that by now. And actually, this reason that I'm about to talk about now, I actually touched on a little bit in some of my last videos about being independent, being mature, and being self-reliant, and how identifying with your things makes you receive validation from outward sources, and then it keeps you from being immature, independent, and self-reliant. And so now I'm going to go deeper into those reasons. I think most people, when they do start living in a van, though, like their reasons are travel, and maybe cut costs of living and things like that, which are important, and they also are reasons for me. However, there's more important reasons. By the way, this is Kronk. I don't know. We're just laying on the floor here. You'll meet him more, but he's kind of sleeping right now. So what it comes down to is that we all are on different life paths. We all have different goals. We all have different values. We have different ambitions, different things that we want to accomplish. We all were born at some time. We were born. We have parents or guardians or somebody that teach us. We have different authorities that we've learned from, and that have all brought us to this point and to this path where I'm filming this video and you're watching this video. So it's led us to a pretty interesting part in our lives. The thing is from all of these different influences and from our own brains and our own experiences, we've all created our own reality. What I think the world is like is probably a little bit different than what you think the world is like, and it's different for everybody else out there, which is kind of cool, because the more we meet people, the more we are exposed to other people's realities, and the more we're able to learn and to grow and to go from there. However, when everybody has a different reality, everybody lives by different rules, and it causes little issues. We all chose, whether we think it or not, we all chose and choose what we believe, which is incredibly important, and which gives us our sense of suffering or gives us our sense of happiness. And we label things good and we label things bad. And I can go through this world and I can say that people in this world are assholes and they're jerks, and I don't need to deal with them, and they're backstabbing, and they're whatever mean, they're brutal, and all they want to do is eat one another, and it's just, it's negative in every sense. Or I can go through this world and I can say, well, this world also at the same time, I can completely change my beliefs and say, people are good, they're happy, fun to be around, they're interesting, they're cool, they're actually very knowledgeable, they have a lot of knowledge and things that I can learn from them. And then, in this essence, that the world is a good place to be, and my perspective and my reality, whether I choose it's good or bad, totally changes my experiences and the way that I react to the rest of the world. So we have that. The good thing about it too is that we never know everything. We always make decisions to the best of our knowledge, and which we can always give everybody the benefit of the doubt that they are making decisions in their life with good and positive intentions. So whether or not I like something or not, in reality, they genuinely have good intentions. And I'd say 99.99995% or whatever, something like that, people are doing things out of good intentions. So it helps me to really understand other people when I think about their intentions. You can think about past events, World War II and Hitler and whatever. Like, everybody had their reasons. Hitler had his own reasons, and he had good intentions for it. Obviously, his reality was a little flawed and caused a lot of suffering, but he had good intentions for it. Same thing with 9/11. Lots of suffering, lots of death and troubles and problems that way. However, from their point of view, they had good intentions. So, yes, I'm not condoning it in any way, but everybody does have good intentions depending on, or not depending on, but no matter what their actions are. And we'll get into that just a little bit more. The good thing about it, though, is that what we choose is very important, and the reality that we create for ourselves is incredibly important. So whether we choose to have a reality like Hitler and cause lots of suffering, or 9/11, whatever caused suffering, or we can choose to have a different reality and cause growth and happiness and fun and pleasure and all these good things that we want here in life. And the way that we go about it is we live through life, we learn, we can make changes, we can grow, we can adapt. And I think every time that we learn, change, grow, and adapt, it's called a process of maturation. We mature as we go through life. Something that's interesting to me too is that everybody thinks that they're mature or they're right, and everybody else is more immature and not as right all the time. And I laugh about Avatar, how she's always talking to Jake Sully and says he's like a baby, he's stupid, he doesn't understand, he doesn't see. And probably all of our cases, there are situations where we don't see. We have not hit that level of maturity yet to where we don't understand. However, what's good about that we have that we think that we're right, and we think we are mature in things. The good thing about that is it allows us to act. Good thing about action is that we go out and we're doing things, and really our reality comes out in the way that we act, and that, in a sense, crashes with the actual reality of what things are. So, for example, if the world is round, and I don't think it's round, or I don't know it's round yet, and I think it's flat, I'm going to treat it like it's flat until I realize that things in my reality aren't exactly true. There is one reality, that the earth is round, and it took human beings a long time to figure that out. And there's a lot more realities that we've been learning over and over lately, especially with all the increases in science and technology. It's been insane at how much we understand about our world now that we never did before, which is great because it helps us form our reality to actual reality rather than just my reality. So if that makes sense to you guys, I hope it does. Anyway, as we go through, we connect that, or we mature, and the more mature we become, the less and less dependent we are on outward sources of that influence. So as I mature more and more, I don't need my parents as much as I used to, because I relied on them a lot to make decisions for me, or help me make decisions, to teach me about things that I may not know, whatever it is. And the more we mature, the more independent we come. And the thing about independence and maturity is we can all hit levels of hit plateaus, and so we can learn and grow a lot, and eventually we get to a level, and it goes pretty well with life. For the most part, it's good. However, there's probably little things that we're wrong, and I think most of us, we get stuck in these maturity or independent plateaus. The problem with that is that we end up suffering a lot without even knowing. Or we obviously know it's suffering, but we don't know what the cause is. And that suffering is not enough suffering to cause us to go out and to learn more and do more and grow and create and get farther, move along in our lives. So those plateaus are kind of dangerous, in a sense that we get to a level, there's suffering, and it's suffering that it's not too much suffering that we tolerate it. And that can become a problem. But really the process to becoming independent, mature, and self-reliant it's all the same. It's very simple. You get your what am I trying to say here? It's very simple, and it's almost something that most of us don't even think about, because it is so simple. And all it is we gather data from the world, we make our conclusions, we put it into our actions, and then we see if we get positive or negative feedback, and according to that positive or negative feedback, we make changes and we move on. Very, very simple. I think everybody understands that for the most part. Sometimes we don't use it even though we understand it or know it. That's different. That's a different issue. But what I really want to emphasize is what we choose as our reality is very important. And the fact that we have choice in it is much more important. Some things that, going back to like 9/11, there's more of like the Muslim extremists. However, there's a lot of other Muslims that have the faith that don't believe in the same way or don't act in the same way as that the extremists would do. Same thing with Christianity and other religion. There's extremists out there that take things to a level that's not common compared to the other believers. And I obviously, was Christian and everything. I was a Mormon missionary for a little while. And I strictly, we studied the Bible and actually the Book of Mormon a lot too. And there's a lot of things in there that were really interesting to me. But I know if you accept those types of beliefs, and a lot of times, like, for example, there's a scripture in Deuteronomy that talks about if you run into an unbeliever, if your wife doesn't believe or children don't believe or whatever, like, it's your obligation to kill them if they're a non-believer. And so even though there's those scriptures in like Muslim or Quran, and then at the same time there's also the scriptures in the Bible that say, hey, kill them if they don't believe, whether or not you take that seriously and you choose that as a belief, it can be very, very dangerous and cause lots of suffering. So depending on what you choose determines the amount of suffering or pleasure and happiness that we receive in this life. And we as humans, we are meant to be free. And we have been fighting suppression for the last several thousands of years. That's all we've been doing, basically. There are people that want to tie us down a little bit. They want to control us, or they want to feed off of us, or whatever it is. There are people that want negative influences for our lives and that type of thing. And so I think that should be one of our virtues as human beings, is that we should strive to be free in every possible way. So like I mentioned, having less stuff, it's being free from identifying with your things, free from having all this crap loaded onto you, free from anything. And so me moving into a van actually makes my reality very vulnerable. I've grown and learned a lot just in these last several months because I've been exposed to a different world than I had been before. And what that's done for me, it's caused my reality to crash with actual reality and other people's out there. And it's caused me to learn and to grow and go from there, which has been a very interesting and a great process. And I feel that most people are a little too stagnant, because I caught myself in that. I got a little stagnant. I was, getting a little lethargic in a sense, and too accepting to sit in my house and do nothing when I really didn't have to. But what's great about living in a van for me is that it forces me to get out and to do things. I don't want to spend all day in my van. I don't. I want to get out, meet people, and do things, expand my reality, grow, learn, put myself in situations that are going to cause me to perhaps double think my reality. And I went through a lot of that before I ended up moving into the van. So I got a certain distance, but I felt in order to hone in my reality to actual reality even more is I needed some outward help. So what I would do, if I were you, and some advice I would give to anybody out there, is that put yourself in situations to where your reality it crashes a little bit with actual reality, or it's tested. Put yourself in tough situations sometimes, so that you're able to find out what's really real. My whole process leaving Mormonism was incredibly hard for me. It took a lot of study and a lot of thinking and action and questioning and discussions with other people to really find out what I felt was true and right. And that's some different issues that we can talk about later. But what it comes down to is just determining what really is reality and becoming free from any outward sources that are people that want to control or to bridle you, kind of like a horse, and steer and control you there. So if we never push our limits, we'll never get there. And we won't be mature. We won't have the ability to control our own destinies. We'll depend on others. We'll, in a sense, be super needy. We'll allow for others to determine our destiny, to control us, like I mentioned. And really what it comes down to is, if we never mature, it basically turns into socialism. I know I don't want to bring up too many like political or religious debates, but that's really what it comes down to, is immature people need others to provide for them. They're not self-reliant. they are not independent in any way. And that's really what it comes down to, is socialism in one sense or another, whether it's physical means and communism in a sense. Everybody works together, puts in one big pot, and then divide it up, just so those that aren't able get taken care of and feed off of those that produce more than what they need. And it's terrible. And I think a lot of people, what they should do is learn to grow up, be independent, become self-reliant, take care of yourself. Nobody else will have to deal with it. And in a sense, it's kind of the whole Darwinism, survival of the fittest type thing that can seem kind of harsh at times. But in reality, actual reality, you can't pull something out of nothing. You have to be able to create. You have to be able to do. You have to be able to make something of yourself and of your life. And so that's what I would recommend for everybody out there, is to push yourself, stress your reality a little bit, find the areas where you get negative feedback, change some things, go out and act again. And then from there, you'll be able to slowly hone your reality down to actual real reality. The world is round. Wow. Now you can do something, and now you can be more than you've ever been before. So push your limits. And that's one of the purposes of why I chose to live in a van. So and to end this video really quickly, if you know anybody that would need this message, go ahead and share it with them. Facebook and Twitter or any other way, that'd be fine. Also, too, if you received any value out of it, go ahead and like it down there. And if you have any questions or comments, put them down in the either on the blog or in YouTube, and you'd be able to help other people from your input from that too. So thanks for watching. 16 minutes, it's a long video, but I think it's filled with some really good content for you. And in the meantime, take care, and we'll talk soon.